Hey everyone, welcome to RevTrevNFL, and I'm pumped about today because I've got a new guest here, David. Welcome to the channel. I know you're a huge Cowboys fan, and as you see on my name, it's RevTrevNFL because I love talking about the NFL. Everyone knows, David, I'm a massive diehard Packers fan, but I love talking about the league. I'm very interested in what's happening with everyone else, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, and I want to thank you for being willing to come on, and I think we're gonna have a great time together. So welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
Yeah, Trev, thanks so much for having me on the show. I love football too. I love my Cowboys. I love Dak Prescott, but I love the NFL. I love the game. I love the history. I love talking about narratives. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for letting me be on your show, and let's get into it. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. I'm glad to have you here. So truth be told, you and I kind of got into a little debate on X, which is Twitter. And I personally love that because I love going back and forth with people in the way of having data, facts, different things, hearing different perspectives. I really enjoy that. So we kind of got into it. And then I'm like, you know what? I want this guy on my show because I want to hear his take. And so I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. But
yeah, absolutely.
I want to ask you to start off. Like, how did you become a Cowboys fan? Tell me a little bit of your story, and then we're going to do a mock draft tonight. We're going to talk about Cowboys drafting. This is a Dallas Cowboys show. I know, weird with the Packers, man, wanting to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So,
yeah. So I was basically a Cowboys fan from birth. My dad was first and foremost was a Joe Montana fan. So he was cheering for the San Francisco 49ers until they seemed to shelve him after that back injury against the Giants in the NFC Championship game. And once they shelved him, he started watching the Dallas Cowboys. And around that time was when Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Jimmy Johnson, those teams came in and started to dominate the league. And so he said, you know what, if Montana's not going to be in San Francisco, I'm going to cheer for the Cowboys and whichever team Joe Montana went to. So he was cheering for Kansas City and the Dallas Cowboys until 1994, ultimately when Joe Montana retired, and then he became just Cowboys. So I was born into the Cowboys family. I remember my first jersey I ever had as a kid was a Troy Aikman jersey, just the old retro blue Cowboys number 8. Wanted to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys since I was really, really small. God had other plans, but now I'm here talking about the Dallas Cowboys and enjoying it. So yeah, that's my story.
That's awesome. So I've got a little funny story to tell you, which you might be surprised about. I used to own season tickets to the Dallas Cowboys.
Really?
So yeah. So I'm thinking about launching a podcast, so that will be on it. It's gonna be my first one is going to be story time with RevTrev, and I'm going to talk about my fandom. And I actually had season tickets to 3 different teams at one time, and one of them was the Dallas Cowboys. And it's hard not to cheer for a team when you have your money invested in them. But I've been thinking about having you on, and like, who would be my favorite player of all time on the Dallas Cowboys? Because I mean, I'm not a fan of Dallas, but I love Deion Sanders. It didn't matter what team he was on. He was one of my favorites for sure. I loved having Terrell Owens wherever he went. So I did cheer for him when he was on Dallas as well. In fact, I saw him live. I have a picture of him right there. I went to the Thanksgiving game against, and of all teams, it was Seattle, which I live close to Seattle. So I've seen Seattle a million times, but the Thanksgiving game was against Seattle, and saw Terrell Owens, DeMarcus Ware, Tony Romo. So it was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So how's that for a shocking story for you?
Man, yeah, I mean, to hear you said you're from Canada and have season tickets to Dallas. I mean, those two things at first didn't seem to go together. So, but I think for someone who doesn't like the Cowboys, Deion Sanders is a great pick because he's just it's hard not to be impressed with his athleticism. Someone would call him probably the athletes ever play the game of football. Him and then Bo Jackson would be the two. I mean, you're talking about a guy who changed the game on both sides of the football, also in special teams as well. He could play baseball, and then you're seeing right now what he's doing in college football. I mean, it's hard not to be impressed by the dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what I liked about Dallas is I made the most money off of those tickets because every team is a rival. Every team is a rival. So the division, everyone want to come. It was the Redskins back in those days, but Commanders now, Giants, Eagles. You had 3 games that no problem you could sell all those. 3 teams you could sell, but everyone wanted to go see their team play Dallas. So, anyways, there's a little story time for each one of us. Figured that would shock you a little bit. But as we know, my Packers went into Dallas to the AT&T Stadium and dominated your Cowboys, which actually exposed some of the needs. When you're walking into the playoffs, like, was that for a lot of people, that was a shock. Was that a shock for you? All my Dallas friends were so angry. My close Dallas friends are like, I think some of them turned it off at halftime. They were that mad and frustrated. So wondering, how did you feel about that? And then let's talk about kind of some of the needs that you saw from that game and from the end of the season. Did you have hopes that this team was going to win the Super Bowl last year? Did you have realistic hopes, that means? You're muted for some reason. Why do I have you muted?
Let me see.
There we go.
Oh, how about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
So I think when you're looking at this past season and this Cowboys team, what were the expectations? I mean, we're coming off a season to where, the defense really played well against the San Francisco 49ers in that divisional game. And Dak Prescott made or didn't make about 5 plays that, really cost this Cowboys team. It was him coming off of, the interception, career high, tied for the league with 15, and he only played in 12 games. And so really what you heard coming out of the offseason was, this Cowboys team can only go as far as Micah and this defense can carry them, because a lot of people kind of gave up on Dak. I didn't. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. I'm a supporter of Dak Prescott. I don't think he's the greatest Cowboy of all time, but just in terms of, this is a guy who really, for the first time in my life, I saw him start as the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and I was like aware of it. With Tony Romo, I was probably around like 9 to 10 years old when Tony started for the team, and I loved football, but I really wasn't like watching it every single week or really watching the games. It was still one of those things to where the game was on and my twin brother and I would play football in the house while the game's going on. So like Dak Prescott was the first quarterback that I was sitting down and he was the starter. And so that he just always is going to have a special place for me. But coming into this season, there was a lot of just skepticism about the way Dak would play, but I was never sold on Kellen Moore as the offense coordinator. I thought that when Jason Garrett got fired, I thought Kellen Moore should have went too. So for years I had been saying like, this is not going to work. Like, yes, they're top 3 in the NFL in total offenses, but Kellen Moore, when it comes down to crunch time, always makes the wrong decision in calling plays. Like whenever we're in, you might disagree with me on this one, or you might agree with me, but like this last season before this one, we were playing the Green Bay Packers. The Dallas Cowboys were up 28-14 heading into the fourth quarter. And Kellen Moore is still throwing the football. And we're running the ball pretty well with Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. And we just kept putting it in the air for whatever reason. Even when we went into overtime, we were running the ball extremely well, extremely effectively. And then all of a sudden, we started throwing the football for no reason, and it cost us the game. And that was just one example of several games where I think Kellen Moore and his play calling cost us football games. So when the Cowboys made the decision to move off of Kellen Moore, I said, you know what? Mike McCarthy said we're going to run the ball more. That we're not going to be so pass heavy. But we also know how that went earlier in the season. We didn't have a very good ground game. And so once that 49ers game happened this year to where we got cooked and we got destroyed, Mike McCarthy finally said, all right, let's get Dak the football and let's throw it more and we'll open up the playbook. And you saw how dominant the offense became once that happened. But the defense was the problem for the Cowboys this season. If you look at every single big game where we faced a above 500 team, the Cowboys defense never showed up. Like, I'm not talking about like they were like struggling, like we say for Dak, like they just flat out didn't show up. Even Arizona, who it was nowhere close to a 500 team, ran for over 300 yards on the Dallas Cowboys defense. So like in big pivotal games, this defense was a problem. And it was the Buffalo game for me where I said, you know what? This team is a one and done football team. Like it just was, because every single big game they disappeared. Because then the next week for Christmas Eve, Dak has an MVP like drive where he goes down the field, scores the go ahead touchdown. And where you said, oh, we needed Dak to make a moment and make the plays. Well, he did it. And then what did the defense do? First play of that next drive, 15-yard face mask, they're already in field goal range. So it's like those kinds of things that were happening throughout the season that I was sitting down at my father-in-law's house about to watch the game, and I text my boys and I said, you know what, guys? I don't have a good feeling about this. Something's going to happen. I already know it. Like, and my friend Savage, who is on the podcast with me, went on a huge rant that was historic on TikTok of just Green Bay, they're not going to score 20. Like this is going to be like a whipping. Like it's not going to be close. Like Jordan Love's going to bust. Like all these kinds of stuff. And the exact opposite happened. And I just sat there and I just said, you know what? It's what the Cowboys do. This shouldn't surprise us. This shouldn't be shocking. Even when you give them like, hey, we should at least make it to the divisional round. Like it's going to be a tough game against Green Bay, but I think we can win this out, and then we'll see what happens in the divisional round. Like they let us down. And so I would say the biggest need for us as a football team is definitely the loss of Tyler Biadasz, another left guard. We lost Tyron Smith as the left tackle. We don't have a running back that we can trust really to give him the carries. And so on the offensive side, that's what we need. And then defensively, we were just missing linebackers. We were missing those interior guys and on the defensive line. And then we also had a defense coordinator who seemed to sabotage the game because he wanted that Washington job. So I would say those are the kind of holes that we need to fix in Dallas.
Wow. Yeah, and I wouldn't say I walked into that game confident, because I had watched your guys' defense annihilate people this season, especially the Giants. Was it the Giants that was week one or something? Wasn't it 40-0 or something like that? Yeah. So I had your Cowboys as my fantasy defense, and I was like, I was loving life, you know. But then they started struggling a bit. But like I remember the draft when Micah Parsons was available, and I'm like, please trade up and get this guy. Like he looks like an elite level player. He's a difference maker. They're hard to find. Of course, we didn't. Dallas gets him, and I'm like, oh boy, they're gonna have a great time with this guy, and he has lived up to the hype. So there's a lot about your team. Like, in all honesty, you've got a lot of key pieces there. It's not like you're not in
Mhm.
rebuild mode. You're not. I mean, it was
No.
disappointing, right? But CeeDee Lamb just went nuclear, and he was
Yeah.
phenomenal. I've seen Dak Prescott throw the 400, 500-yard passing games. We know he can be dangerous, but I was surprised that we were beating you guys so badly. I thought it was going to be closer. I knew it was going to be a close game. I mean, it was glorious for me and my friends who are Packers
Yeah. I
fans. Like,
bet.
it was great, but flip side, I could understand how that would have been awful. But it also
Mhm.
exposed your weaknesses to say, hey, so now this year you need this in the draft, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I hear what you're saying, man. That would have been difficult to watch because I've been on the receiving end of those games. For example, when we lost to the 49ers that one year, and Mozart goes and runs for 220 yards on the ground,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there going, like, there was literally nothing we could do. They had a perfect
Yeah.
scheme, and it's
For
just
sure.
hard to watch that, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So, okay, I want to just run into you mentioned a number of things that you feel like you need, and I'd already asked you that. So here the Cowboys draft needs, according to you, David. But I wouldn't say that this is in order, but these are the things that you're
Right.
looking for
Correct.
in the draft. Is there any people specifically in these areas? It sounds like you want, like, it looks like a left guard as well, right? So I need to add that in there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, really just depends on, what are you gonna do with Tyler Smith? I mean, Tyler
Yeah.
Smith, a lot of people didn't like him coming out of Tulsa. I mean, he led the college football in most holding penalties in his final year at Tulsa, and so there was a lot of question marks. But his rookie year, he came in, stepped in, played really well at left tackle, then got shifted a little bit to left guard, and he played extremely well. So it really just depends on what should the Cowboys do with Tyler Smith. Do they kick him out into left tackle and then you get a left guard and then a center, or do you keep him at left guard and then draft somebody new at the left tackle position? So really those two are interchangeable depending on what you want to do and where Dallas decides to put Tyler Smith.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And anyone who's watching right now, we have a number of people watching the stream right now. If you have any questions for David regarding the Cowboys, feel free to ask him. He'd be happy to answer them. But yeah, I like thinking about each team's draft needs. And as I'm looking through the first round, second round, third round, seeing who's where, what they're going to go after, because I think what happens is when we get into these mock drafts for our own team, we kind of get biased that nobody else wants what we want. You know what I mean? And so I
Yeah.
think it's really good to get a perspective on other teams and go, well, maybe that guy won't be there. Um,
Mhm.
and so I don't know if there's certain guys that you're like hoping that the Cowboys draft with your picks, but would be happy to talk about some guys, because like you guys draft really close. So every pick in the first three picks are like right in front of us, and
Yeah.
so you actually Cowboys, the way you draft affects what we get. So yeah, is
Right.
there certain
Yeah.
guys
And
that you're
so
hoping?
just yeah, I mean, I would say again, this depends on where we're putting, where we're putting Tyler Smith. Let's say that we keep Tyler Smith at, the left guard position. Then you're looking at a guy like JC Latham from Alabama as a left tackle. I mean, he's a guy that I think that could play extremely well. I mean, that means if he's there. And I think the backup for him, if you can't get him, was Tyler Guyton. I mean, I'm in Oklahoma, so I live OU football. He was great for us last year. And so to add him onto this Cowboys squad in terms of that left tackle position, he's the guy that I definitely would go into chase. Then you have the center position. I mean, you're looking at Zach Frazier from West Virginia. I think he's going to be a solid pick. That's if you don't. That's if you know don't decide to do a flip and to get what's his name? think it's Johnson.
Yeah, Powers
Jackson
Johnson.
Johnson from
Oh, okay.
from Oregon, as a center. If you go for the first round, you get the center in the first round. That's who you get. Maybe like you can hold off and get Guyton there, but if you get Guyton first, you probably won't get Johnson. But I think Zach Frazier is the next best choice for the Cowboys in terms of that position. And then if you look at running backs, draft a running back in the third round, you get Blake Corum from Michigan. I know that Cowboys fans were kind of done with Michigan players because of the whole Mozzie Smith and Schoonmaker. But if you look at how Blake Corum played this season, he was the offense for Michigan. And so if we can get that kind of dynamic back and pair him with Rico Dowdle and hopefully get Deuce Vaughn into a scheme that works and fits for him, I think Blake Corum will be a great addition for that. But those are just a couple of players that I have that I think that we should get. I think for a wide receiver 3, Cornelius Jackson from Michigan is also a great option, great pickup for us. I like Jalen Tolbert. I think he's a good number 3. He really developed well after a really subpar rookie season, but he made some big plays for us this past season. So, but I think if you want to get one, you get Johnson from Michigan.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like naming those names, because I find at 24 on a lot of draft boards, almost like either 2 of the 3 are there or 3 of the 3 are there, and then that's a big decision to make for the Dallas Cowboys, right? So, and again, like I don't know how you guys feel about your GM and drafting, but for us, like I just think I literally have no idea what Goot's going to do, because whenever I think you should do this, he goes in a different direction, but he knows what he's doing. So I've just learned, I did a video called "In Goot We Trust," because at the end of the day, I did not know who Jaden Reed was when we drafted him. I had never heard his name. I didn't know, and I know that Packers fans, for example, wanted JSN at 13 last year. And I said, we don't draft wide receivers in the first round. We just don't do that. So we're not, I knew we weren't drafting a wide receiver. But if you said to Packers fans now, who would you rather have, JSN or Jaden Reed? The answer is Jaden Reed, not just because he was productive, but we got him in later, is it second round? I believe we got him with our second pick in the second round. And that's what I'm saying is, there's I don't know how you guys feel. Like, do you kind of go, well, this is what the Cowboy way is, and they're going to pick someone like this. You know what I mean? So when you name those 2 tackles, for example, are those both Cowboys guys, or there's just 2 guys you're like, I like both of those guys?
I think, honestly, I think they're 2 they're 2 Cowboys guys. It depends on who you talk to about what the Cowboys are going to do. Because you hear the rumors that they're also looking at a quarterback in the first round, that they could be a surprise team to pick up a quarterback in round 1. But it just reminds me of the year that Johnny Manziel was being drafted, and you heard all the noise that Jerry was infatuated with Johnny Manziel, that he was going to pick him up, and we ended up drafting Zach Martin with that pick at a right guard. And man, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. And so the Cowboys, they know how to pick him. I don't know how. Because even if we look at 2 years ago with Tyler Smith, everyone thought he was going to be a bust. Everyone thought that was a waste of a pick. And he was a really, really good draft pick. So when it comes to offensive linemen, Jerry and Steven, I'll give them this. They're really good at drafting offensive linemen. Really good. So I trust them to make those decisions and to pick those guys that we need. So I would expect an offensive lineman to be our first and second round picks this season.
Awesome. I love this. I love hearing it. I feel like during this season, I'm so dialed in, but I feel like I just want to learn as well, because I haven't seen all those players. I don't really know some of those positions. And so I don't come in acting like I'm an expert, but I really do appreciate your takes on these, because there's certain guys that I would love for us to get. But Yeah. Anyways, I think we should dive into a mock draft. I don't want to take your whole night, but I do
No, it's all
really
right. Let's go.
value your time, and I feel like I'm learning a lot. Um, there's there I was thinking about doing it this way. So let me just, I'm open to your feedback, but I was thinking about just doing one mock draft, and it's like just like this is it. This is who's available. We don't get there's no repeat back in the day. Like I did a show and I did
Yeah.
3 of them. I just felt like I'm like, now we're just taking the best one, or that guy should be there by then. I just want
Right.
to make it as real as it feels. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And I was thinking just doing Cowboys stuff, but because Green Bay's right there, it might be fun just to have both of our teams and you just. But I don't want to take too long of your time, so happy just to do a Cowboys draft only, or to have me doing the stuff real quick on my end, depending on what you draft as well. What would you prefer?
I think if we can do a quick, let's do both. Let's do Cowboys and Packers, because I'd be
Okay.
interested to see who you think the Packers should and could get.
All right. Well, let's try it. Let's get into it. I'm going to have to switch it up then, which I don't mind doing because I just had a Packers. I'll put it in right now. So this is gonna be fun. I'm really excited to do this with you, David. Thank you so much for being on this.
I'm so nervous about this right now. I'm not gonna lie. I'm so
Really?
nervous. Yeah, a little bit.
All right.
I'm
not
hope,
nervous.
We'll see if Cowboys fans will say that I would make a terrible GM and I'd be fired.
Just the way you're talking, I would be shocked if you were. Okay. So just one of the ground rules for this is when there's trades, I'm open to trades happening, but if they're all for like next year, I just X them out. Because it's just like there's some stupid ones. Like in the 4th round, they're offering you a second, a third, a fourth for next year, and I would just take that every time. So my goal here would be only relevant, but we can do no trades, whatever you want to do. I'm totally cool with.
Yeah, let's just go straight. Let's do no trades.
Yep. Let's do no trades. Okay,
what we get is what we get. So
all right, we're starting the draft, and this is fast draft. So and I'll show whatever you want in the way of. So first pick, we're doing no trades. These are your available players here. If there's someone else that you'd like to, there's Guyton is there. So you got your tackles. You have the one guy that you're hoping for there.
Yeah.
But there's a number of great players here for you.
Yeah. So let's stick with offensive linemen for right now, because I know that's who the Cowboys are going to get.
Okay, and so you want to look at like tackles and these guys here, right?
Yeah, for sure. Man, I've seen Graham Barton a lot in this. I've seen him go on in a couple of mock drafts. So is he like a guard?
Yeah, he's a guard. And he's a beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's Barton, and then these are the tackles. I don't know if there's a tackle here later you want. But I mean, if you want Guyton, now's the time. But if you want Barton, now's the time. You know what I mean?
Now's the time too. Oh gosh. Yeah.
That's why what's surprising is, and so David, just a heads up on my philosophy of how this draft is going, because so many teams need quarterbacks. It's pushing everything back. In fact, I'm doing an LA Chargers show tomorrow night. And my buddy Peter Day, who's a diehard Chargers fan, he's thinking that they hit the lottery because so many teams in front of them need a quarterback. They're going to get one of the best picks in the entire draft, what would normally go number 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's pushing down quality guys for us, which is awesome.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and take Tyler Guyton with our first pick, just because, man, Tyler Smith was a second team All-Pro as a left guard. So I think let's keep him there. Let's Let's get Tyler Guyton. Let's get him.
Okay. So you solidify that. Look at this trade. I would do this trade, by
My
the way, in real life. This is insane.
Look at all those
Okay,
picks.
so this is the Packers. This is where we're at. This one's hard for me because I really like Barton here. I think he's a stud. But this edge rusher and this Newton from Illinois, they're fantastic. I really am kind of hoping for like someone like Kool-Aid or Arnold, but they're always gone by here, and DeJean is gone. Powers Johnson, I love as well. So but man, like, do you know anything about? Is it Latu? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's Latu. Yeah.
Like, is he a difference maker or what?
You know, he was in some games. You know, UCLA is always a tough team to to really gauge for, because when they really play like top teams, I don't ever really know how they do. So
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think just like having Barton there, I think I'd have to take him there. I think the other option would be Wiggins. So I won't take as long. I'm sorry. I took a long time to make a pick there, but I'm going Barton.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
So it's going to go Dallas next, I believe. No, we're at 41. So this is where I love this pick. On this draft board, I can wait and get Edgerrin Cooper later, but I think realistically, I think Edgerrin Cooper is the most elite talent at linebacker, and it's who I want. So I'm going to go him. I don't want a quarterback. I don't want a wide receiver. And there's Cooper right there. And because we got the guard, we don't need Frazier. And safety's deep. So I'm going to go Cooper here. All right. So no trades. What do you want me to look at?
You know, the name that I've heard a lot is Peyton Wilson. I've heard his name a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And it really just kind of depends. You know, you get Eric Kendricks in free agency. You're going to get Ofshane from Texas, who was having a really standout preseason. Like, I mean, this kid was flying anywhere. My headspace is, I believe that those two guys are going to be enough, and hopefully with Mike Zimmer calling this defense, Michael Parsons is going to be used a little bit more in linebacker position. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass on Peyton, and I'm gonna go ahead and take Zach Frazier. You need a center. You need a quality center. You have him next to Zach Martin on his right side and Tyler Smith on his left. I think that's going to be a strong offensive line. So I'm going to go with Zach Frazier.
Okay. And quick question: when it comes to the linebackers with Peyton Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper, which one do you personally like better?
Cooper.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like there's a consensus there, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so see, and this is where I'm saying is here at 43, I could I think Peyton would have been a great pick, but yeah. So this is the part where it's interesting for me, because I want to go safety here, but there's so many good safeties, and there's also so many good running backs. But I'm going to go Newman here just to solidify the safety position, even though Braswell would be awesome at this spot as well. I like Bullard as well. I kind of feel like both of them are similar. Do you have a preference between Newman and Bullard?
You know, Bullard is probably more pro ready, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, he's playing in the SEC, but Newman pops off my screen. So
yeah, I hear you. You know what? I've got this little weird thing. When in doubt, draft a defensive player from Georgia. I'm gonna go Bullard just for fun.
Yeah.
Even though I'd probably go Newman there, I want to do that for fun. So I believe you're up next. Yes. Yes. Okay, so we get one pick before you. Basically, we're picking the exact first 3 picks are the same. So
Right.
yeah, so I don't know. Like, do you feel like you should have waited and got like a Patrick Paul with the tackle, or you could have got Haynes here instead, or are you happy with what you did?
I think I'm happy with what I got. It's interesting that oh man, it's going to be interesting what I do here. I think I'm going to wait to the 4th round to reveal what I plan on doing. Um,
Okay. Well,
I'm
the
pr-
fourth
this one.
round is 178, 74 the fourth round.
I think we traded away our 4th rounder.
Yes.
I think that was right. Isn't that we traded our 4th
Yeah.
rounder for Trey Lance?
Yes.
So we don't have a 4th rounder.
Yeah. So what you do right now, it's a long wait to 174.
Yeah.
So whatever you had planned, you got to do it now.
Yeah. Well, so I'll probably share what I was going to do a little bit later cuz
Sure.
so
So what would you
here's
like
what
to
I'm going
look
to
at for now?
man, let's go ahead and let's look at let's look at a defensive lineman. I like Mason
Okay.
Smith out of LSU.
Like DL
Yeah.
or edge? So
I would say
Mason Smith.
DL. We really need that interior run stopper. I mean, because we just lost Hankins to
Yep.
Seattle.
Yep.
Neville Gallimore went to Miami. So now we're looking at we really need a solid defensive lineman, a really good interior guy. So I'm going to go with Mason Smith out of LSU.
Awesome. And with this ranking, you've actually gotten a steal of a deal. He's dropped. I mean, he didn't get picked. So this might be like one of those moments, right?
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
take them and see. You get an A on from their grade. So that's awesome. Now, 2 picks later. This is what I love about the Green Bay picks is we get 88 and 91. And I
Yeah.
think this is going to be really crucial for us because those are both 3rd round picks, right? Yes, they are. They're
Yeah.
both 3rd round picks. So this is the part where I'm like, I've already got my safety. I've got
Hmm.
my guard. I've got my linebacker. I'm solidified in like the needs area.
Hmm.
I I really like this guy from Yale. I can't say his last name. Do you know how to pronounce that? The tackle.
Oh, a mega
But no one, yeah,
DG, I guess.
yeah, no one's talking about him in Green Bay land. So
Hmm.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, whoever I pick here is going to be in a good spot. And so I'm sitting there going, do I pick a guy like Patrick Paul, or do I go this guy from Yale and get that tackle? I just had this feeling they're not going to do that. They're going to go after someone like Braylon Trice and get another edge guy to get after the quarterback. So that's what I'm going to land here with my first pick. So then the second one that comes up, this is where it gets crazy.
Yeah.
And, I wish we had a corner here that kind of jumped off the page. They don't. And this is where I might consider a running back here. And there's a
Hmm.
whole bunch of great ones, but I'm going to wait because I believe that there's so many really, really good ones that I
Yeah.
get the tackle that I was okay with. So I'm going to go with tackle here. And I feel pretty good about that. So yeah, now we're at 126. We get to draft again, which is wild. And hoping that my boy, no, I think he got drafted. I was hoping he would be there. I wanted a running back here, and I wanted wanted Braylon Allen, but he went. So
Mm.
I feel like there's three really great running backs here that I'd be very happy with. Ray Davis, Estime, and Lloyd would be solid. Irving's good, but not great in my opinion. Do you have a preference on any of three of those running backs?
You know, I saw Shipley play. I think he's really,
Yeah.
really good. I mean, this is all without a quarterback too. At least not a quarterback that I believe in. I think Shipley's is probably my favorite out of the running backs right here. But I also think Irving's really good too.
Yeah, and it's just like what we need. So the Estime one, I believe there's something important about him, but we brought in Ray Davis multiple times. I have this feeling it's the guy they're targeting. So I'm just going to
Mhm.
go with Ray Davis from Kentucky. I appreciate your input. Estime's a massive guy. I think he'd be great, but I can't remember. I think there's an injury history or something along that lines. So I'll just go with Ray Davis here because I feel like that's what Packers are going to do.
Yeah.
And I like all those running backs there. That's actually really good value, I think. Okay, we pick again. Wow. I mean, because we're right before you. So this is where in all honesty, not sure which way we're gonna go. But if it was me, I would go McCormick here from South Dakota State and just get another lineman. I think that he's going to be one of those late round guys that I'm going to be impressed with. So I'm going to go him here.
So you must feel like your defense is in a really good place then heading into the season.
Yes and no. Like if I get Cooper, like I wanted
Mhm.
a corner at the beginning, right? So if we go back to
Right.
my thing here. So I did believe like corner, linebacker, and safety are the three ones I really wanted. I
Mhm.
guess at 169, I should have taken like Simpson from Auburn, probably as the cornerback, or Jaron Jones, but
Yeah.
maybe I can get him later.
Yeah.
So that I think that's the only thing. Like, do you like I've drafted 1, 2, 3 defensive players there. So
Mhm.
I don't know. We have a lot of picks, right? So
Yeah, I mean, you guys got a ton of them. So,
yeah. Okay, so it's up. You're on the clock now.
um, let's look at. Oh man, there he is, 152.
Yeah, I
LaFou.
was looking at him too.
I don't know how to say his name, but yeah, I mean, he's a name that I've seen pop up a lot for the Cowboys. We need a linebacker. I think he's solid. He's going to be disciplined. They play really good football. They play really good defense over there in Notre Dame. I mean, really put the hammers on Lincoln Riley's USC team. And I remember watching that game. Man, I really like him at this spot. So I think I'm gonna go with him.
Okay. Yeah, I like that pick for you. That's incredible. And I don't know like how your Cowboy friends would think, but I actually like your draft a lot here. So well done. So this is where it gets crazy because I like Braid. I like this guy from Oregon State, but I already got Bullard. I don't feel like we need another one. This is where
Right.
I feel like it's hard to know what to do for my Packers. This is where I feel like I'm really learning. But I don't think we need a tight end. I got the running back already. Oh man, this one's tough. So I'll try to go quickly here. I mean, I am tempted, honestly, with Milton because of his height.
Mm,
I like him a lot.
yeah.
The other quarterback I love is actually Hartman from Notre Dame. He lit it up
Yeah.
as well. So I feel like either
Mhm.
way, I'm really happy at this pick. But I'm just going to go Milton here, even though I'd be happy with either one.
Right.
But Milton's height is insane. Uh,
Mhm.
and so I feel like that's going to help. So, Okay, so we are here with the Cowboys 216 pick. If you need to pray about it, just let me know.
Oh man.
Is there a wide receiver here? You were talking about that being a possibility.
Yeah, let's look at receivers real quick. Oh, Taj Washington. Oh man. Let's look at running backs too.
Yeah,
Let's see
let's
what
do
running
that.
backs we have right now.
And to be honest, I don't know anything about these running backs. So if you need one, your guess is like you probably have a way better idea than I do. But I don't know any of these names.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think I'm going to stay away from running backs, I guess, for this draft and just cut my losses there. Here's the move that's going to surprise you. I'm going to take
Okay.
Sam Hartman at quarterback.
There you go. We were both talking about that.
I just
Great.
think, Dallas loves to draft quarterbacks late in the draft and just to see what happens. So I think that's very much a Cowboy move.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right. Well, I'm not sure what to do here. I think I want to go cornerback. I don't know any of these names. The only one would be like more Johnny Dixon, but I don't know if he has the size and everything. So I don't even know. That's what I'd like to do. I've already got a tackle, but you never can go wrong with having depth.
Mhm.
Did I get
Yeah.
I got an edge, but I never got a DL. Yeah. So what about Christian Boyd? Northern Iowa? I mean, that just sounds like a Green Bay decision. You know what I
It
mean?
does really. Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
I'll take him. It's a shot in the dark. I'm not Goot. I'm not claiming to be Goot. So, okay, here we are. By the way, I liked your Hartman pick. That's awesome. Interesting. The running backs are still there that you were looking at before. Washington's still
Yeah.
there for wide receiver.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to go with Washington from USC.
Yep, I like that pick. And then you have the next pick, and then Green Bay's up right after that. So 244, your last pick of the draft. You don't need a wide receiver now.
Right. Oof.
Like, what about these guys from Michigan, the edge rushers or the interior linemen?
Let's see here.
Or maybe we take a shot in the dark with one of these running backs.
Yeah. You said it yourself. When in doubt, let's get someone from Georgia. So let's go ahead and draft this running back, Edwards.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I said when in doubt, pick a defensive player from Georgia, just so you know.
That's true. That is true. You did say that. You did say that.
But that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that pick. I think it's a long shot. If he pans out, you're going to be more than happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got two picks real quick here. It does not matter what we do because I like to have fun. I'm just going to pick. Actually, I feel like we need another defensive lineman just in case. We're gonna go two in a row there, and then I'm going to go another interior lineman just because why not? No, I need to get a cornerback. I need a cornerback. So I am going to go from Pittsburgh. Boom, done. Okay, so it doesn't matter really about my draft because this is not a Packers draft. I am I am fairly happy with that. I feel like I may have missed. I missed on maybe one player that I was hoping, but overall, pretty happy with the first 7 picks. But for you, what looking at this now, how do
Mhm.
you feel about it?
I think I probably could have, with the 87th pick, taken Blake Corum at that position.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have waited for a defensive lineman, um, and maybe even got my linebacker out of Notre Dame. Could have gotten him maybe a round later. Um, I think Sam Hartman might have waited too a little bit, and maybe, Sam Hartman was probably a little bit of a reach, but I think for the most part, I'm pretty happy. I just think that maybe getting Blake Corum I probably should have gotten him with that 87th pick, because I think there were some other great defensive linemen later on in the draft that I could have just waited for.
Yeah. Even though Mason Smith is probably going to be good, I think especially your first 4 picks, I think they're all going to play for you this season. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and I still think they're good. The problem is you don't have very many picks. I can see Dallas, if they need
Yeah.
more help, they could trade down.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot that the Cowboys are looking to trade down their 24th pick, to move back a little bit in the draft. They're super confident that I think that Frazier will still be there if they want to try and just snatch him up in the first round, or maybe even that Guyton will slide down. And also, man, what's his name, from Alabama? That I was just like Latham. That he was also
Mm-hmm.
going to be
Latham.
there if they
Yeah,
traded down. So I think either way, those that could work if they do trade down.
absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're a Dallas fan, please post how you felt David did in this. I think this has been really fun to do. I've had a blast with you doing this. It's not as easy as it looks, hey, David. Like we're
It
sitting here and we don't have
First
all the
time ever.
research.
Yeah, first time ever. I've never done a mock draft like this before in my
Wow.
life, but boy, was this fun.
Yeah, and what's funny is I feel like every second video is a mock draft video, so I'm kind of getting a little annoyed about it myself. But they're so much fun that I just keep doing them, and then hearing your perspective just changes everything for me, because you guys will affect our draft. And I'm just glad you didn't take Edrin Cooper. So I think
Man,
I
it was
got him
close,
early
man.
though. I could pick him before you did.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah.
was close. It was close
But
because
I
I've
don't
seen
even
that
think he's
name
going to
pop
be
up a
there
lot.
at 41 for us. I think, anyways, doesn't matter. We can talk all night, and I don't want to keep you all night, but I do want to thank you so much for being here. Any kind of final thoughts about your team, or that you want to just chat about really quick before we go?
I think this year is going to be an important year for the Dallas Cowboys. If I had to look at how the team looked right now, I think the Cowboys are going to look the same as they did the year before, and maybe a little bit worse, meaning this: we're going to play great against bad teams. We're going to smoke them. We may even be great for people's fantasy teams, especially the
Mm-hmm.
defense. But I think when it comes down to it, I think the biggest issue happening right now for the Dallas Cowboys is just Mike McCarthy being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He's good enough with this talent and with this roster to get you to the playoffs, but ultimately when you're facing the big boys of the NFC in the playoffs, coaching and having your guys prepared really matters. And what we've learned, even in the 12-win seasons of Mike McCarthy, we're the most penalized team and have been the most penalized team 2 of the last 3 years. And the year that we didn't, we were still number 3 in penalties committed. This
Wow.
team always comes out flat. This team always comes out unprepared. And I think that's reflecting of who the head coach is. So I think this is definitely going to be the last year for Mike McCarthy. For Dak Prescott, it depends on how he plays this year. If he has another terrible playoff game, a terrible first half in their playoff game, and we don't win, like I think I don't know. I think the Cowboys could eat $40 million against the cap next season and just say, you know what, Trey Lance, let's see what you can do. We'll just go complete rebuild mode. Or they'll probably try and figure out something with Dak Prescott and be like, hey, listen, you're not our guy. Let's see if we can send you somewhere else. And people say that this is a crazy thing. I don't put it past Jerry to do this, but Shedeur Sanders next year as a Dallas Cowboy, that's not out of the realm of possibility, I don't think. So this is going to be a very telling year for the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't know, man. It's hard as a Cowboys fan to be excited for next year, just considering what Jerry hasn't done in the offseason so far. Right now, this team looks like 9, maybe 10 wins, and then a first round exit.
Yeah, so it's a playoff team, but not like they did last year. Okay, cool. Now, before we go, there was a guy you were hoping to get. Did you get him in the draft?
So not a guy specifically. It was just the position. It was just to see what Cowboys fans thought, and it is getting a quarterback late.
Okay, so in the Hartman pick,
late in the draft. Yeah, it was the Hartman pick. I'm a fan of Spencer Rattler. At least when he was with Oklahoma. Obviously, the wheels fell off with him in Lincoln, and he wasn't fantastic with South Carolina. But man, I love the way that he throws the football. He has such a great release, just a great motion. So if he was there, I probably would have picked him over Hartman just because I think Rattler's a little bit more athletic. But just getting a quarterback was just a little wrench in the plans.
How wild would it be if at 24 you move back or you picked a quarterback there with your first pick? Like, would Cowboy Nation just lose it? You know, I know that there's like, it's the whole Martin versus Manziel situation here, but what if they're like Penix Jr. or Nixon? Bo Nix. What if they went that direction? Would you be excited as a Cowboys fan? I mean, you're a big Dak fan, so probably not, right?
No, I wouldn't be. Also, just because then it completely makes the Trey Lance trade completely meaningless.
Yes.
Because I think that the Cowboys, they picked up Trey Lance. They wanted to develop him. Now you've heard different reports like, hey, we want to develop Trey Lance and then trade him again for more picks later on. The problem is he needs playing time. He needs to be able to show that he's developed as a quarterback. And I don't think preseason is going to be enough to do it, really. Because Cooper Rush, who was our backup quarterback, had an up and down preseason over the last 2 years. But then you get him into the regular season and he looks good enough to, with an elite defense playing lights out in 2022, lead you to some victories. But I think if the Cowboys get a quarterback in the first round, it really just shows that they don't know what their future is at quarterback. Or at the very least, it means that Trey Lance is not panning out the way that they expected it to. And also would just mean absolute chaos for the Cowboys, which would be great for the media, but terrible for Cowboys fans. And we're already divided enough when it comes to Dak Prescott. Getting a first-round quarterback would just absolutely just pour gasoline on already a huge dumpster fire.
Right. And it seems like there's a lot of fan bases that have, like, we were in that last year with the whole Jordan Love thing and getting rid of Rodgers. The fan base was divided. You look at the Bears right now, it was the Fields versus, Caleb's conversation. Fan bases, when they get toxic like that, it gets, the Civil War is awful. And so you'd have a civil war on your hand.
But I will say, like, and I don't know if you saw my tweet or not, but Isaac had put on his Twitter, he had posed the question of, like, how do you feel about Jordan Love? Like, for those of you who are not Packer fans, how do you feel about Jordan Love? And what I will say is this: I think that, the way that I put it, and I'll explain it a little bit fleshed out here, but like with Jordan Love, it's more like I think he got a little bit too much credit for his postseason success. I mean, you're talking about a Cowboys team who just flat out was not ready to play, but he played really well against San Francisco in the first half. But he did throw those 2 critical interceptions
Yes.
that cost the game. But I don't think he gets enough credit for his regular season success and how he played towards the end of the year. Because I think Green Bay was like teetering for a playoff spot in the entire second half of the season. If Jordan Love doesn't play the way that he plays, the Packers don't go to the playoffs.
Exactly.
And Aaron Rodgers, his first season, he put up pretty good numbers, 28 touchdowns and I think 11 interceptions, I do believe. Jordan Love goes 31 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, but what were their records? Aaron Rodgers was 6-10. Jordan Love is 9-8 and has some pretty good wins in that stretch, and so I think right now Jordan Love is a top 7 to 8 quarterback right now in the NFL. Green Bay, they know how to draft quarterbacks, or at the very least, they know how to pick up quarterbacks. I mean, because we're going into the you take Brett Favre off of Atlanta's hands, then you have Matt Hasselbeck in the room, who ends up being a great player for Seattle. You have Matt Flynn, who I thought as a Green Bay Packer was really, really good, gets him a contract in Seattle. Aaron Rodgers, and then you also have Jordan Love. Like Green Bay, they just really know how to draft. And the key word here is develop quarterbacks. They develop them, they get them ready to go. And that way, when they step into year 3 or 4 and you said, hey, start with us, it may be like slow for a little bit. You expect that with quarterbacks who start off new. But then you saw Jordan Love at the end of the season. Man, he was lights out.
And I didn't know what he was going to do. This has been the most stressful time ever being a Packers fan. Like if you would watch me watch a game, like I kind of had my fist clenched. My body was always tense because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's not like I knew we were always going to win. Okay. But it was so weird. It was a different feel. Like it's been 30 years of success, right? So I know we've had some down seasons, don't get me wrong. But like, is he the guy? And I think you're right, is, there were some growing pains. There was 5 weeks that were 4 or 5 weeks were awful. And then it starts turning around and you're like, wow. And when he got NFC Offensive Player of the Week, back-to-back weeks, I'm like, this kid is special. I had I would say above average expectations. He exceeded my expectations. People were laughing at me. I used to have the graphic here. I've removed it. I'll send it to you. You're going to be shocked at what my expectations were. And he was better than that. So I for me, I said, even if he could be a Pro Bowl quarterback, I'm going to be happy. Does he have to be Hall of Famer? No. Now, don't get me wrong. If he's a Hall of Famer, I'm really happy, right? But he should have been in the Pro Bowl last year. Geno Smith getting in the Pro Bowl was absolutely highway robbery. That guy is no good. And I live in Seahawks country. He's okay. But Jordan Love had better stats, and they gave it to Geno. I don't understand. So, in my opinion, very first year as a starter, he's a Pro Bowl quarterback. And I'm like, my goodness, I couldn't believe it. And so it still blows me away to this day. And I just think the future's bright, and we'll see what happens. I don't see us regressing, but it's possible. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Green Bay regressing either. I think if you look at the top teams in the NFC, obviously San Francisco's up there. Detroit is going to be up there as well. But then you start looking at the other teams in the NFC. There's a lot of question marks for a lot of these teams, like Philadelphia. They're getting a new set of coordinators leading these teams. Sirianni's a little bit on the hot seat because Doug Peterson, he won them a Super Bowl and he was gone within 2 seasons. So what are they going to do? Dallas, all the news that is coming out of them here this offseason is Dak Prescott not getting a new contract. Micah is wearing thin on the Cowboys front office. CeeDee Lamb could possibly be holding out. So many question marks. Everyone is on a prove it deal. Then you have, the unknowns about Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Minnesota. They need a new quarterback. Chicago on paper. Yeah, exactly. And then Chicago on paper, they look pretty good, but you have Eberflus as your head coach. Like how good is he really?
Terrible. He's terrible.
And so this is Green Bay's shining opportunity with one of the youngest teams in the NFL, a great head. I think that LaFleur is not just a good coach, he's a great coach. Yeah. I mean, you don't go. I mean, I get it. He had MVP Aaron Rodgers to take him to NFC Championship games, but then to have the season you have with Jordan Love, and you almost beat San Francisco in San Francisco, top stuff. And so you look at this Green Bay team, they're right in the mix. And right now I have Green Bay over Detroit. Right now I do. I'm just
saying, like you're speaking, you're preaching to the choir here, man. And I love Detroit. I think they're fantastic.
I think they're a great team. I think though, the thing is, I trust Jordan Love more than I trust Jared Goff. And this might be a hot take, but Jared Goff, I think, is a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. But every single time he's been good, he's needed a ground game. Like he's never had a good season without a running game. As soon as Todd Gurley was done in Los Angeles, so was Jared Goff. So I think that if Detroit, and they do have a running game. That is true. But what happens when they don't? Let's say that somebody gets hurt. Who do I trust more? I trust Jordan Love.
Wow, I love it. I love it, man. You're singing my love language right now. But it's nice to hear because sometimes I feel like, am I just biased? I pride myself in passionate, realistic, honest takes. And if you've seen what I would have picked for which teams, who we win, and I nailed the record this year. Mm-hmm. But every game that I thought we were going to win, we lost. And every game I thought we were going to lose, we won. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not claiming even though I can just tell everyone I said we're 9-8, we're going to be fighting for the playoffs for the wild card. We did, we got in, and then see what happens, right? But man, it's been a wild ride, and I'm loving it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Dallas looks like next year as well. It's going to be a wild year. I'm looking forward to what Philadelphia looks like next year. I'm looking forward to seeing Atlanta with Kirk Cousins. Those things excite me. And so it's going to be fun. Yeah, man. Okay. Yeah. So I forgot to, at the beginning of the show, and please forgive me, I forgot to get you to promote what you do, what your channel is, and forgive me about that, but take a moment to tell people.
Yeah, man, there's so many different podcasts that I happen to be a part of. Not all of them are football, but I'll promote the football one first. So I have a podcast called Double Take, an NFL podcast. It's me, my twin brother Daniel, and our friend Steven Savage. We're all Cowboys fans, but we talk broadly of the NFL. Our show is not really mock drafts. Ours is like, hey, rank the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, top 10 head coaches, talk about legacies and narratives of players, of quarterbacks, of legends of the game. Ours is more of a debate show. Let's talk about the big news that's going on. And so if you're interested in that, man, check out our podcast, Double Take an NFL podcast. I love doing it. It's great. I'm also a big Star Wars fan. So I have a podcast called the Star Wars Historian Show. And so if you're interested in that, and then I also have a Harry Potter podcast called A Show of Requirement. So if you're interested in those two things, man, check those out, but definitely check out Double Take an NFL podcast. would love to have you on our show to talk about Green
Sure.
Bay, and also just to talk about narratives of quarterbacks. Because I think for me, that's like my mission right now. Like my mission is to change the way that we talk about quarterbacks specifically, because I think that there are some things that we have double standards on with specific players.
Totally.
And so if you're interested in having that conversation, like let me know and let's get it on.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Awesome. Well, thank you, David, for being here. I've really enjoyed my time with you, and I hope all the success for you on all 3 of your channels. I appreciate it. So I'm just going to kick into the outro video. If you want to talk after, cool. If you need to go, I totally get it. But bless you, bro. And hope you have a great podcast coming up next. And I encourage everyone who's watching this, give David and his crew a follow. I think you won't be disappointed. So appreciate you. Thanks everyone for coming by. And how about them Cowboys? And go Pack, go. Go Pack, go. What now?
Oh,
Yes! Yes! Woo-hoo-hoo!
Green Bay, represent! There we go.